Good morning, all, or actually, happy lunchtime for me and happy very early morning and possibly hungover morning to my guests and others of you, I guess, living in the past. And welcome to Kal-bardr's Corner for this episode of Coffee with Cal. I am Baron Kal-bardr Gellir, Panny the Bernard Cross, Panny the Argent Comet, Panny the Compostela, Panny the Palmer's Lantern, Defender of the West, and Reaper, coming to you live from a Starbucks hanging out in the Shire of Talmere, somewhere near the center of Meridian. So today I'm joined by two amazing humans. First up, fresh off his investiture yesterday, you will have seen him on SEA Coach's Corner as a regular font of knowledge and has lost a coin or two to me here on the channel. Please welcome back the newest ruler of Cynagua, Prince Thorfinn. Good morning, Your Highness.
Hey guys, well, I'm glad to be here.
And of course, we would be remiss to have a show about the Crapaud when not be joined by the Crapaud herself. You may recognize our other guest from her appearance on Between Two Peers or just from being a regular on the field and parties of the West. Please welcome Jane the Reborn. Vive la Crapaud.
Vive la Crapaud.
La Crapaud de Knowne. It's very nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. So before we get started, I'd like each of you to introduce yourselves, give a little bit who you are and why you're awesome. And of course, we will let His Highness go first. So Thorfinn, who are you and why are you awesome?
Well, I'm not sure why I'm awesome, but I'm trying my best right now anyway. Let's see. I'm Thorfinn the Cruel. I've been in the SCA for roughly 30 years. It's been an amazing adventure going through the SCA for all this time. And other than that, though, I mean, I don't know. I tell stories and try to make people have a good time. So. Oh, and I'm also currently the Prince of Cynagua, as you just said.
Yay!
Yeah, I stepped up yesterday, and so I'm feeling a little rough because a bunch of my buddies and I went out after the event was in my hometown I grew up in, and so we ended up going to my favorite bar ever, and we, knocked back a couple cocktails, and I gotta admit, I'm feeling it today. I'm feeling a little rough around the edges, but I'll make it through this.
We appreciate you being here, and of course, after like an 11-hour day of courts and things too. Yeah. So I do not envy you the tired you are currently. And for those watching, the voice you're hearing off screen is of course Her Highness Tulia. So she may poke her head in or say hey occasionally. So hey Tulia.
She's coming in right now.
Hi.
Hi buddy.
we're broadcasting live from our hotel room.
The glamorous hotel. All right, Jane, tell us about you and who you are and why you're awesome.
All right, I'm Jane the Reborn. I practically grew up in the SCA. I've been doing this since 1987. My fighter card's over 20 years old now. I have just been at this forever. I love it. I'm probably most well known in my area for being one of our, if not our first, open and out male to female trans fighters. So a lot of my work recently in the SCA has had to do with activism and working on making the society a more inclusive place.
That's right. Good thing.
Awesome. No, we appreciate you for that. That is an awesome thing. I appreciate more visibility on those sorts of things is always a great thing. So thank you for your efforts there. All right. So today's show is about the Crapaud. But we got to talk about our coffee first because this show is coffee themed.
That's right.
So I am, as I mentioned, at a Starbucks, but I let Her Ladyship Runa pick out my beverage today. And apparently I have a Honey Nut Cheerio latte. It is something that some person from another Starbucks set her onto, and it's friggin' tasty.
Is it good? It sounds amazing.
It's toffee. It's like a toffee nut white mocha. And I was like, I'm not mad about this. Of course, it's ice because it's hot as blazes here. So I'm sitting outside so they're not dealing with the Starbucks noise inside. But the more important part about this Honey Nut Cheerio latte is the cup, actually. So my fancy new cup here was gifted to me by the Queen of Antir when we were for Antir West, and it's made by one of their potters, Thin Grim. So I'm super excited for my new fancy cup I got, and it's a nice, like, it holds an entire venti latte.
Nice.
So that's my level for a cup, is if I can put an entire venti latte in it. I'm happy with it. So, what about you, Thorfinn? What are you drinking this morning?
I'm drinking what I order it from Starbucks as well. By the way, is a standard coffee with 1 sugar in the raw and a little splash of whole milk just to take that bitter edge off. But that's what I drink all the time. This is my standard go-to, and yeah, But I used to drink a lot of coffee, and during the pandemic, I kind of downed it to where I don't really have coffee, but maybe once or twice a week now. I used to drink like at least one of these a day. Now I'm like, kind of sometimes. But today's definitely a coffee day, so I'm enjoying this Starbucks, that's for sure.
If I'm not saying that there's an orange juice somewhere off screen for you as well, for the help of the hangover, right? There you go. What about you, Jane? What do you got?
I have my favorite and traditional drink, Low Carb Monster, and I am enjoying it out of this wonderful copper cup. It's got a little cat here that was
that's adorable. I love it. I never let Kisa see that cup. She will steal it from you. She will thief that mug from you. I had to buy her a new mug at Ontario West that had biking cats on it because she's like, you have to buy this for me. I was like, you're right. I have to buy this for you, clearly.
My spouse Ood has a matching one that has a dog in the same position.
Nice. I love cups, man. I think buying pottery in the SCA is a whole separate hobby. Like buying and owning pottery, it's just a thing we end up doing. I didn't realize that when I joined the SCA, but it's a hobby I now have.
Yeah, I got a lot of friends that are potters, and I seem to have a lot of SCA cups. I mean, right now, we must own probably 25 Maggie mugs.
I've seen your collection of Maggie mugs and the glass ones that are the historical recreations that Tulia has. They're the glowing ones. Yeah.
Yeah, we got. Yeah.
You're not lacking on cups, sir.
No. And then yesterday, someone gave us a largesse.
Oh, that was
Helga, Princess Helga gave me like 30 more cups to give away to newcomers. So I have 30 more ceramic cups for as amazing largesse. What we do is, if you're a newcomer, we'll get, their first event, we'll give you a mug and a hat.
Yeah.
And that way, get you started, right? And put your drink in something cool, and also I think it's a really nice thing to make people feel part of the club, part of the program. So that was, I think Uriah started that, right?
Yeah.
And it's a brilliant move, and so we're happy to be carrying that forward.
Some of those may have came from Meridia's, actually. She purchased I think 10 from a potter here in Meridia's that I brought out there. So you may have ended up with some of those. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
So awesome. All right, so let's start the topic for my laptop. Fair warning, everybody, because we are on shitty hotel Wi-Fi and shitty Starbucks Wi-Fi. Any one of us may drop at any time, and I'm also on a laptop with no power cord because apparently this is the one Starbucks in the world with no power outside. So if I randomly drop, I'll pick it back on the phone, and if Thorfinn or somebody drops, we're gonna make this work. So I will go ahead and apologize for the snafu of having to reschedule this show. That's my bad. Technology does not work like I thought it did. Now I know things I didn't know before, and also I think both Thorfinn and Helga and I were all too drunk to do the show anyways.
Yeah,
it would have been funny.
Yeah, we waited till 10:30 at night to start this, trying to figure out the show. And
yeah,
it was not our best move, I don't think, but it was fun.
It would have been entertaining regardless, but maybe not the best plan. So anyway, all right. So the Crapaud. So this is something that I first experienced during the pandemic. Which I hate. Helga was supposed to be joining us today, but I think she drank way too much last night and is still sleeping this morning. So hopefully we'll catch up with her later. But
plus an extra 3 hours on the drive.
Right. Yeah. So I first experienced it through her and Hans and Havek during the pandemic, and it was something that I'd never heard of before, never really experienced. But it was a culture that I got immersed in, and I want to thank her and the Angels as well for allowing that to be a thing that you opened up to the world, right? So previously it was something that was very insular to the West Kingdom, very insular to y'all, but during the pandemic it actually opened up and allowed us to experience that culture broader. And that was really neat for me, somebody who had never met the two before, never got to experience that. So, but this is 315 now? 316?
Jane is the 315th Crapaud. So basically the number is we've held this tournament 315 consecutive months in a row without ever missing one single month. And which it's arguably the most consecutively run tournament in the history of the SCA.
Yeah. I think, it is.
Just the numbers wise, you'd have to think that. Little background on it. When we were squires, this is a long time ago. We, a bunch of us, now all successful, members of the society, we could go to fighter practice and kick everyone's ass, right? We could just go and have just crushing people on the practice field. But when it came to tournaments, we would blow it. We would choke, or just the minutia of the tournament, like the salutes and all the things would throw us off, right? And at the time, my knight, his name was Obadiah the Obstreperous, he was looking at us and he said, you know what you guys need to do is we need to have a practice tournament. And so what his concept was, he's going to make it just like Crown, right? So he designed it to be the same type of salutes and the marshals and all the little kind of things that was throwing us off. And he said, we're just going to have it every month now. So how do you become good at something? Well, you practice it, right? That was his theory. So he started off with this idea, and it was a practice tournament for us, all of us squires, to become good at tournament fighting, right? And kind of the pressures of tournament fighting. But being very, forward-thinking guy, he also realized that if you're going to, win the tournament, you're going to have to get up and talk in front of people, right? So the one big difference is we do a toast at the beginning, right? And the toast can be about anything. We've had people toast, historical figures, their parents, or lost ones, and things like that, right? And then at the end of the tournament, we gather around and we do a second toast. And this idea is that you're now learning to speak off the cuff. You're learning to speak in front of people, get that, shake that off, and not be afraid to stand up and talk in front of people. Because if you win the tournament, you're going to have to speak in front of hundreds of people, right? So get used to this idea. And so that's the major difference between it and one of our standard tournaments, is that we do this kind of toast in and toast out thing. Originally, we would drink wine when we did it. And then about a year into the tournament, Duke Fabian showed up, and he brought port. Mm-hmm. We were like, screw wine. Now it's port. It's been port since then.
Upgrade.
We're like, oh, elevated right here. It's like you made this much better. And so whoever the Crapaud is, and Vive le Crapaud, is responsible for bringing a bottle of port to the next Crapaud. Another thing about the tournament is you're allowed to actually defend the title. Right. So unlike Crown, where you're hosting the tournament to find your successor, right? In the Crapaud, since it's a training tournament, you're allowed to actually win multiple times in a row.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's
how many times have you won?
The most I've ever won was 11 in a row, I think.
Okay. How many times have you won?
I've won this tournament about 80 times.
Jesus, Thorfinn, 80 times?
I think it's more like 90.
It may be more like 90, but there's a period where we lost the documentation on it.
Right.
So
you've drank since then, right? You're good.
I'm fine. But yeah, so the idea, I mean, also, there was a kind of a thing that was fun about the starting of the Crapaud was Obadiah was getting kind of some flack from someone, and he was held out of Crown tournament. And it was a personal thing, and it actually wasn't like a valid even reason to do it. It was the guy who was Crown was mad at him because was a truth talker. He told him some stuff he didn't want to hear,
right? And
so he told him he couldn't fight in Crown. And so what happened was the SCA started in the backyard, right? And then moved to the giant tournament field and all the the glorious banners and pavilions and stuff. What had happened was the Crapaud we fled back to the backyard is what happened, and we started the Crapaud in the backyard again. And so it was like kind of like returning to the beginning of the SCA. It felt like that, and we've really worked hard to have a couple things about this tournament that makes it special. Is that the community about it, right? When you come to it, or when you participate with it, it has like a real close knit feel, right? And it's welcoming. It's open to anybody, right? Mm-hmm. But we maintain this by connection. We talk to each other, and also, we don't allow, stupid stuff. We don't allow people to be that guy who doesn't take blows or whatever. We confront them, right? And we also open line of communication between our opponents. It makes it so that you feel connected to each other. right? If you only talk to another fighter when it's a negative thing, right? Like, hey, what about that leg shot, right? And it comes off negative, that means they feel like they're being attacked. But if you do it in a way that, like this, hey man, what about, I was just checking in on that leg shot, and they're like, it felt like it grazed. Me too, I thought the same thing, just checking in, right? Now it's not just accusatory. Now we're talking to each other, we're making sure that everyone's on the same page. And that's kind of what the values of this tournament is. We've never had a person win the tournament in 315 months that didn't win it, and everyone there knew they won.
Right. Which I think that's an important thing to look at when you're looking at a tournament, because I think we could all think back to a crown or a cornet list that we're like, was that all right? Was that okay? There's always some questions somewhere. So it's really nice to hear that, and 315 consecutive now, you haven't had a single questionable moment. I mean, I'm sure there's a shot that was missed here and there. I'm sure there was a thing that was wrong, but like at the end of the day, everybody's happy with it, right? That's super cool.
We stopped them. There was a tournament one time where there was a questionable thing, but we stopped the tournament and fixed it right then.
Right.
So it worked out. Everyone was happy at the end, and that's the way we should work as fighters. We should work on this kind of idea of having an open line of communication with your opponents. Make it so it's not just, like I said, not just accusatory. Like
One of the things that Crapaud has, and it doesn't get shown on the broadcast, is when we're doing the toasts, you will hear some of the most heartfelt speeches you will ever hear in the SCA. We do not even contain it to the SCA. I have been there on ones where people talked about things going on in their modern life and challenges and struggles they were overcoming, and it opens you up to these people in a whole new way that you never see when you were out there fighting them on the field. And when you see all that, it makes the communication easier. You're not just talking to some random person in armor. You were talking to this person that just shared something very personal and let you be part of their life.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's like you were saying, Jane, that's a huge part of why that we have this like kind of a community feeling. Is that you get to know everyone there, and like Jane said, there's people that have shared really important and personal things, and during those speeches, that's the only thing we don't show on the broadcast.
Right.
We don't because it's people they're just talking from their heart, right? So
there is if I remember correctly, please correct me if I'm wrong here. So there's the two toasts are actually different. So the first toast is the fighters and only the fighters.
That's correct.
And then the second toast is for anybody that's there, the audience, fighters, whoever.
Anyone that came to the tournament is allowed. So the first one we line up in order of precedence, like we're going to do challenges. So there's knights on one side, or knights and royal peers on one side, and then you have the unbelted fighters on the other side, and then we do it in that order. And then the second one we gather in a circle, and anyone that was there, like someone that just helped run lists or whatever, they're allowed to come in, or even just people that just watch.
Spectators.
Yeah, spectators. Yeah. Come into the circle and be part of the final speech. And so that's true.
I think it's neat. So during to my experience with it, so during the pandemic, that was we got to watch the fighting live, but then they would do the second toast online because there were no spectators. It was usually just three fighters or in like one or two people helping camera. So it was a small crowd, right? But doing it online allowed us to open up to those of us who spectated, got to come in and participate in that. And you're right, even in that where it was a open forum, we're in a Zoom call, there were some things that were said during that were just overly connective and overly expressive, and it was heartfelt. I think that's like the fighting's great. Like we can talk fighting all day about that, but I think that part of the Crapaud for me was such a impactful thing. And it's honestly, some of that's how I've connected to people through. It's how I met Duke Sean. It's how some of this show started. It's how I got closer to you and Helga and others. Like that was just such a thing that never would have the opportunity to do that, right? Without this thing. So I think it's neat, and it's awesome that that's maintaining that way.
Right. True story. And I think, like I said, I think that was really clever of Obadiah when he came up with this concept to build that sense of community. He was a football coach and a high school teacher, so he understood like the importance of these type of activities to build like a team. And I really wanted to say during COVID, Crapaud has been in many different places. It started off in his backyard, and over time it moved to we did it for a number of years in a little town called Davis, California, and in a city park, and the police would drive by and they'd always stop and check in on us because 10 dudes in a field beating each other up. The new cops would stop by and they'd be like, "Is this legal?" I think no one seems to be complaining, so it must be legal, right? And then they'd leave us alone, and eventually they would actually kind of stop and watch, over time. But and it's moved around. But really, what kept Crapaud going during the pandemic was kind of a happy coincidence. Yeah. Was that Helga and Hansa had won Crapaud, okay, and it was in my backyard at the time. I was hosting it. I hosted it for about 8 years straight, and then there was a couple years where it went off to Joel the Brewer's house, and then he needed them he was selling his house, and so it came back to me. But then the pandemic hit, and we were like, "How are we going to do this? How can we do it?" And Hansa had won, and fortunately, he lived with Havek, Duke Havek, and Araya, and Helga. And Helga at the time was also, doing Between Two Piers with Tulia, and so it was like perfect storm. Like the three of them, it's enough to have an actual tournament. Right. They live together in a pod. They can do this, and so we were very, very blessed to have them carry this tradition forward in a way that was like we couldn't break the line of succession, right? And allowed. They did it for God, how long? I mean, almost a year, right? Over a year.
Yeah, it was over a year. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, that was a huge gift to us, and we really the guys who kind of started this, or most of us are in the same household, the Fellowship of the Argent Angels, and we really owe them a debt because they made sure that this carried forward. It would have been a bummer after 200 plus months to have it not go forward, and fortunately for us, they were there and they picked it up and they ran with the ball, and so we, like I said, we really owe them that, and I want to thank them again. Thank you guys if you're out there watching. Really appreciate it.
Well, and it's one of these. I think when you and I both approached Helga about being on the show, she was like, "I'm not involved with that. The Crow is not my thing." And we're like, "No, it's important. You guys did a lot for this." And like and out of Helga and Havek, I know Helga's the one we can actually get to talk. Havek will hide; he won't talk, and Hans will run away. So I can at least get Helga on a spot to talk to me. So I know how this works. So all right, so let's shift gears a little bit. I want to hear from the Crapaud. So Jane, what's your history with the Crapaud? How many of you fought in? Is this your first time as Crapaud? Tell me the things.
All right. So the very first Crapaud tournament that I went to was back in 2002, 2003 time frame. Sir Dimitri invited me. It was still in Obadiah's backyard. Right. And when I first got invited to it, I had never heard about it before. It still wasn't super huge in certain areas. And it was a huge honor going. Like I got to go, I got to meet the people, I got to see them do the tournament. We fought in a little rock circle back when they still had the rock circle, which, oh my God, you were always in engagement range. It was a blast. So I got to go way back in the day. Then recently, right before COVID, His Highness Thorfinn invited me to come over and participate when it was being held in San Jose. And I went down and had a blast and swore that I was going to start making this monthly thing, and then COVID locked down.
Good job, COVID. Thanks.
So coming out of COVID, they ended up moving it to Sacramento, which is where I'm now currently living. And so I started going back to it. I hit a couple this winter, had to take a break to get my personal life in order. I lost my house last year in fire. It was a whole big thing. And then came back out and won this last one, number 315. Fought His former Highness of Cynagua Cormac in finals. And
Oh, nice.
Great set of friends.
and it was insane. Like the night that I won, like I actually kind of felt numb. No, I'm not the only person who's won the tournament and been like, didn't hit me till like the next day that I'd won. The thing by far that has been the craziest was my experience at West Ontier being a Crapaud. I felt like a minor celebrity. It was crazy. I had people I'd never even met from kingdoms I hadn't been to coming up and congratulating me. And it really took me by surprise. I mean, I've been told that might happen, but not to the level like it did. It was shocking. And it's been a crazy experience. One of the other things I did a little bit of, I talked to Thorfinn here, got a lot of the history on the boat, history of winners. Being the first openly trans winner, not a big deal. Like, not a lot of openly trans fighters, so like
Right.
lots of firsts, whatevs. But finding out I was only the second female winner was kind of crazy.
Oh, wow.
So
Nice.
girls, come show up, come fight, come win this thing. It can be yours. You can
That's
do
right.
it.
Yeah. So yeah, speaking of, show off the medallion. Let me spotlight you real quick. So that is the Crapaud medallion. You get with this fancy thing. That is super sweet. So Thorfinn, is there history for that medallion?
Yeah. So, Obadiah used to joke that his house was a bishopric, where a bishop lives,
Mhm.
and he would say that he was a prince bishop, which was this really weird kind of obscure medieval title, which they were like monarchs, but they were also bishops at the time.
Mhm.
So it's actually shaped like a bishop's mitre,
The mitre, yeah.
right? And it's a big giant chunk of silver. It's like solid silver. It's got to be, and it has on the backside, it has Bertrand de Gecklin's arms. When we were coming up with the idea and to call it Le Crapaud, which means the toad.
One more time, and then we'll do the backside, which is a little more.
Yeah, it shows you it started in April of AS30.
Oh, wow, okay, yeah.
And
So we're in
so
AS57 for everybody doing the math there, so 27 years.
yeah. And the thing was that everyone wanted to talk about William Marshall or the Black Prince of Wales and all these guys, and we were trying to find a person to kind of make it in honor of. And Bertrand de Geklin was the Constable of France during the end of the 100 Years' War. Amazingly violent and tough knight from France. And he was apparently a very short and kind of homely guy, and they nicknamed him the Toad of France, Le Crapaud. And so we named it after that. And whenever you win, you're the Toad. And the toad is, it's a we said a joke, but at the same time, there was a lot of toads in Obadiah's backyard, and so there was toads everywhere. So it was kind of like a double entendre, right? We're like, you're one of the toads, but and you say "Vive le Crapaud," right? It means long live the toad. And then the toads, there's these traditional toasts that you would say back, or kind of salutes. One is allez-vous avec la Crapaud, and instead of go with God, it's go with the toad, right? And or things la Crapaud vous bénit, the toad blesses you, right?
Nice.
And these are what they're pretty fun. And there's a second medallion actually, which is the Flower of Chivalry. That one started where we'd been doing it for a year or more at that point, when all of a sudden we realized that person over there was doing really cool stuff. And then even if they don't win the tournament, it seemed that there was no way to recognize them, So in the middle of that tournament, we went into the garage and we banged out, because Obadiah was the very crafty guy. He had jewelry stuff set up everywhere, and he could do woodworking and calligraphy. He was a multiple laurel, and so we banged out a medallion, and we gave it out that night. And it's the fleur of the flower
The
show.
fleur, yeah.
And so we also have whoever the current Crapaud at the end of the tournament gets to name who gets to be the flower, and the flower is given for any reason, right? We've had people, thank you for marshaling, or you were amazing in this fight, whatever. And so it can be given for any reason, and or just being inspirational is another reason, right?
I gave mine
So
to
So Genia, who's yours?
be a better fighter. That's who I chose.
Yeah, and I think that it's so that went on, and the original flower is actually gone, lost to time. What ended up happening was fighters from Australia, the Kingdom of Waka, were here visiting, and they wanted to fight in the Crapaud, and they were like, when we get home, we're starting our own tournament like this. And so we decided at that moment to give them the original flower to be their medallion. And for several years that one went on, and then I think unfortunately the person who ran it kind of stopped being as active, and so that tournament died off. But there are copy tournaments that have been going on for some of them almost 20 years. Like there's one the Fetberg Field of Honor is been going for almost the same amount of time. What's that? Yeah, Fetberg's a barony here in the West. And they've been running it one based on the Crapaud for like almost 20 years, I think. There's one in Caid right now, which is the Tournament of Virtues, I think is what it's called, and that one's they're at 57 months. And so the thing with this, any place that you have, that you feel that you can do this type of a tournament, do it. And the trick is to during that month when it's rainy or crappy outside, and you're thinking to yourself, "Will be cool to skip this month." You have to do that month.
Right. That's the important month.
That's the precedence, right? Yeah. That happened to us. We have a thing in California called an El Nino, which is like a just crazy rain year. When you have an El Nino year, we just get rain like it's just month at a time, right? And that particular, when we first started the Crapaud in April of, a couple months in, we were like, you know what, it's rainy as hell. Let's just call it. We're not, we don't have to do this. And then we sat down at Obadiah's house. We're having beers and we're playing chess and stuff like that, reading medieval poetry to each other. When all of a sudden, my square brother gets up. I know, it's nerds. And my square brother jumps up and he's like, "No, God damn it, we're doing this." And we went out in the pouring ass rain, put our armor on, and we fought it out. And set a precedence in our mind that hell or high water, we're doing the Crapaud, right? And that's why it's 315 consecutive months now. It's because we made that mindset to believe no matter what, we're doing this, right? And other people have carried this torch forward for us. And so nowadays, the Angels, while we have like kind of a, we maybe started it, it's a beast unto itself now.
Right.
I mean, it's like Jane was saying, it's known in many kingdoms. And we didn't, it's our little backyard tournament that's turned into this thing that if you wear that medallion at a stray of war or something like that, someone may walk by and be like, "Vive le Crapaud," because they recognize it.
Right.
And it's an honorific. It has no actual, it's not an award in the SCA.
Yeah.
Right. But so many princes and kings and queens have wanted to wear it during their reign that you see if they are trying to get ready for a tournament, they come to the Crapaud, or if they've won, they want to step up wearing it. And so it's been worn by a lot of Uther won it for 13 months in a row, and that's pretty epic. It was an amazing run, but yeah. So
yeah, so I know the previous Crapaud was yourself, Thorfinn.
Yeah.
Only very closely beating out Sir Logan now. Yeah. I will admit I was cheering for Logan at the time because that was pre his knighting.
Yeah.
And him getting knighted as the Crapaud would have been kind of cool.
Yeah, I think he was the flower of chivalry though. So.
Correct. He was knighted as the fleur, so that's just almost as good. Almost as good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I miss that guy. He's awesome, by the way. If you've never met him, your life is not as good as it could be, because he's a really great person.
I love all of you guys, and I got to meet both of you at what's on Tier West, but Logan was one of my hit list that didn't get to make it, that I was very sad about. So I got to make another trip now to come see Logan now. So
I love the guy.
He lives in Vegas now, so you can get out to Vegas. And
that's true. What was that, Jane?
Oh, Logan, I love the guy. I've been friends with him forever. That shiny breastplate that I'm wearing in that win, that was from him.
That's right. Yeah, you just got that, huh?
Yeah. They wanted my spouse too, because he didn't want us fighting over him.
Oh, that's it. Well, my cornet that I wear that I got was actually Logan's. He got his when he was a court barony. He sent it to me when I got my court barony. So we have like a legacy court barony now that's going to get handed off when I get my new one. So
that's cool.
I think is a neat thing. I think having things like that are gifts from people is something that I like about a lot of the period ceremonies I've seen, especially like what do you guys do? Is that legacy stuff really starts to matter. And this tournament, that medallion being the original one, and that's a legacy piece of regalia now that has 315 months of history, and that's crazy.
Yeah,
nuts.
Yeah, we did not see this going when we started it. We didn't see that this would be 315 months later.
Right.
There's no way we could have planned that. We are working on the 300th Crapaud, which will probably be at that point it'll be like the 322nd, but it'll be celebration of it. So we've had a major tournament for the 100th, 200th, and we were going to do 300th, but then the pandemic, and so it's been postponed. And then trying to get calendar time and stuff as events come back around has been kind of rough. And so we are looking at hosting an event probably in the next calendar year. And it'll be whatever that number is. It'll be celebration of the 300th.
Right. Which I was at the toast for the 300th Crapaud. I actually have screenshots of the toast from that night that I saved from the Zoom call, just so we have them for when that comes up, we can use them. So the actual 300th toast in the 300th Crapaud day. So I made sure to save those on my computer, so when we have it, we can do that.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Which again, that's a cool thing. Like, the fact that I was there for the 300th, even though I was quite a few states away. It was nice to be there for that.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, I don't know what else we got. So Jane, any other context from you? You're a minor celebrity now, at least for the next month or so. Is the weight there? Are you going to keep fighting in it? You're going to try to maintain it this month, or what's the plan?
I hadn't originally realized that you could fight in back-to-back and could defend the title, so I guess I'm due to defend my title this Thursday.
There you go. It is this Thursday, isn't it? It's coming up.
Yeah. It's traditionally held last Thursday of the month. And it does get moved around a couple times during the year because Thanksgiving's on a Thursday, and that's always a problem. And we've moved it backwards a week or forwards a week, but always within the same month. So,
it should have been the Thursday of On Tier West.
Yeah.
Should have been the Thursday, then we had to move out, which I was very upset about, by the way.
No,
I was like, I'm going to get to fight in the Crapaud, and they're like, we're moving it. I was like, I hate all of you. No.
Always fly out.
Right, yeah. I'm just going to look, when the 300th happens, I'm going to make an effort to be there because, that's a thing. So, although there may be talk of somebody moving to Oregon soon, so I might be closer.
Excellent.
I hate Alabama. It's so fucking hot here. It's just gross. I got back from On Tier West and got out of my car. Was like, why do I live here? It's wet.
Exactly. It's the sweat that pours out of you instantly. Yeah. Where we are right now is in Northern California in a town called Chico, and it gets pretty damn hot here in the summertime. But it's no humidity, right? But it'll be 100 today for sure.
Right.
And and yesterday I'm in a wool coat, right?
Right. It's 100, but you're not swimming through the 100. Is the difference?
And that's the huge difference. Is when you get out back east, you get that humidity, which just kills you.
Yeah. All right. So my laptop is nearing the dead point, but we got to get some a little bit of show plugs in, and then I'd like to do some toasts. I think that's an appropriate way to end a Crapaud show is with some toast. So give me just a moment and we'll get to that. So coming up next on Kal-bardr's Corner, let's see. Next Sunday, Remote will be back with Road to Retention, joined by Sir Alexander. So that'll be 7:24 at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, or 9 p.m. Eastern Time, or like 6 p.m. West Coast Time. The Monday following that, her ladyship Isgir, I got to get the titles right, will be joined by Duchess Tiana for local youth guilds on Look Inside Youth Activities. And then for the next Coffee with Cal, I'll be joined by another Westie, Sir Neil Greenstone, the founder of Blackwood, to talk about the mercenary culture, something that we have some of here in Meridian, but not a whole lot of. And I was engrossed in mercenary culture when I went out to the West Kingdom, or in Dontier, I guess. So be interested to hear some of the foundations of some of that and where some of that idea comes from out there. So joined by that, and we talk a little mercenary talk. Let's see what else. Of course, if you want to support Coffee with Cal, all things we do here on KK Productions, look us up on Patreon, patreon.com/KK Productions. Join the grand wall of patrons. Or you can find us on Redbubble. Search KK Productions. Where's the thing? There it is. You can also check me out on TikTok at Kal-bardr. There is the entire trip to Ontario West on there, all of our fun state facts and ridiculous kingdom stuff, and somebody claiming parts of Glenavon for Meridian. I might have done that. That might have happened. You can't go through other kingdoms and not introduce inter-kingdom shenanigans, right? That's just part of what you do, especially when you're at the Prince and Princess South and they're not there. It's not my fault they left the kingdom unguarded. So let's see, we got a couple of things here. Okay, so John Biev did ask, and we talked about this a little bit, have you guys ever thought about writing a how-to about the Crapaud, like documenting what you do for the Crapaud?
No, it's not a bad idea, actually. I mean, we could easily do it even like a short video explaining why and how. That's not a bad idea at all. I mean, while we haven't, we could for sure.
Okay, I guess something I'd love to help you guys with, if we could get a write-up of sort of the structure and then do a little history, a more formalized history, not just a goofy, we're hungover chatting about it history. So let's see what else we got. And then a comment from Duke Christopher here. Having started in the SCA as a member of Toad Hall, he would love to have fought in a Crapaud. So there you go. So Toad Hall would make a good Crapaud. Like that. Yeah,
and then, I mean, it's one of the original households in the SCA ever. So.
I'm not saying his grace is old, but he's up there in age. He's experienced in the SCA. So.
Right.
All right. Let's see what else we got. Anything else coming up? I guess it. So yeah. There might be talk of some Between Two Princesses shows coming up. To toss out different Tullius in the room. I tossed it to Helga, so I'm going to toss it to Tullius since she's sitting over there. So Between Two Princesses, just saying, just make that happen.
She said a thumbs up. So I'm
excellent.
I'm letting her get the band back together. So we'll see.
Oh, that's just too much fun. I am looking for. I was sad that you guys had not stepped up by the time I was there. Because having both y'all on the throne while I was there would have been really cool. But it was nice to get to hang out and chat with you, not having to be official yet. So there's a balance there. Because I think I saw Helga twice when she was not running somewhere. Yeah. I actually hung out with Hansa more because he was slower because he was being princess. So he was letting his retainers actually keep up with him as opposed to just being Hansa and going everywhere. So he was. I appreciated his, not bamfing on me like he does. All right, so as this is the Crapaud show, I think we should do some toast. Your Highness, would you like to lead us off in that?
Yeah, I would. So first, I would say, "Vive le Crapaud."
Vive le Crapaud.
Vive la fleur.
Vive la fleur.
And today, I would like to toast my princess because she was amazing yesterday, and to her, my love of my life, I say, that's good.
All right, well done. Crapaud, Jane, after you.
I would like to toast the populace and all of the wonderful members of the SCA that make what we do possible. Because we've got the staffs, they they make it happen, but they have to have somebody to make it happen for. And just thank you to everybody who shows up and makes this a family and makes this happen.
To the populace. Well done. And from me, of course, vive le Crapaud
Vive le Crapaud.
and vive la fleur.
Vive la fleur.
And my toast today, so we, anybody who's been on the SCA channels, we lost a member of the rapier community here this last week here in Meridies, by the name of Hawk. Someone I did not know personally, but Her Excellency Seneva spoke yesterday about Hawk during court at the Royal University event. And she asked the audience who was there to stand up if Hawk had impacted their life. And out of the 150 people that were there, about half of them stood up that had directly been impacted by this person. So Hawk was from Trimaris, but was a present rapier member here in Meridies, and was somebody that was just a person that you wanted in your life. And once she was there, she was there. And like that, I'm telling this secondhand from stories I've heard just in the last week of her. So I think there are plenty of people like that in the SCA, but losing one of them, in this case to cancer, is something we never want to hear about. So to Hawk and to others we've lost this year. Thank you for that, both of you. And for those watching, my friends, that is an empty cup. Thorfinn, I want to congratulate you once again on your investiture, and to Her Highness as well. I know Cynagua is in great hands, and I look forward to seeing what you guys do for the next 6 months.
Thank you.
And to Jane, to the Crapaud, congratulations, and good luck on defending your title on Thursday.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And to our audience out there watching, thank you guys for tuning in this week and every other week. Again, apologies for the reschedule, but we get the content out there when we can. We will see you guys next week back here on Coffee with Cal, or next week back here on Coffee with Cal, and next week on Kal-bardr's Corner. But until then, have a great day, everybody. Be cool.
Have a good one.